everybody. Welcome back to Compton's Corner. I'm William Compton. I'm a teacher, a neighbor, and I'm a Democratic candidate for Congress right here in Kentucky's 2nd Congressional District. And I'm here with my co host, Spencer Keck. Spencer.
Yes, I am Spencer Keck. I am a candidate for Hardin County Magistrate. And like William said, I'm also your neighbor. In addition to your neighbor, I am also a Kentuckian who just very concerned about our county.
Yeah, so here at Compton's Corner, we like to talk about what's going on here in rural Kentucky and rural America, and we like to bring the conversation to the people here in our area. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about a couple things that happened here in the 2nd Congressional District, and one of them had a lot of news. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the No Kings protest that happened last Saturday, about a week and a day ago. So I was in Elizabethtown with Spencer for the No Kings protest, and it was just a fantastic event. Fantastic. What are your thoughts on it, Spencer?
Yes, I was just very happy to see folks actually taking part in the democratic process. Because, that First Amendment guarantees us that right to redress our grievances. And so that is part of being an American, being out, expressing how you feel, and making sure that folks in power listen.
Yeah, exactly. And to see Elizabethtown show up with a little over 500 people show up in Elizabethtown was just amazing to me. The people who were there, they were peaceful. And I want to reiterate that they were peaceful when they were out there protesting. They were respectful of traffic and they were just letting their voices be heard in their community. So it was an amazing show of our constitutional right to protest.
And not only that, we have people of all ages out there too.
Mhm. Yes, exactly. And we had a couple costumes show up there. I know we had a clown doing a handstand. That was a big one. We had a giant chicken show up. Uh, oh gosh, what else was there? I feel like there was another one. Did we have a
Well,
frog show up?
we did. We had a frog show up. I felt safe enough to bring my, young kid and my dog. And so it was a safe, great event.
Yes. So it just goes to show that people are paying attention to what's going on and what we're seeing, they do not like. And they're starting to feel the hurt of what's going on in this current political environment. So I do want to reiterate it was a peaceful event. And all across America, they were peaceful events. So we couldn't have asked for a better turnout on that date. And I heard yesterday from someone in Bowling Green, they had, oh, I lost Spencer. But in Bowling Green, they had over 2,000 show up to theirs. And the overall total for this event was over 8 million total for all across America. Excuse me, I'm about to sneeze.
And so they say that's about 3% of the population. I think, isn't that correct, or was it 2 to 3% of our whole population, which is
Yeah.
meaningful in a nation where what percentage of the nation votes, or let's say what percentage of Kentucky voted last time, Dakota?
So in the last primary election, we actually had 13% of our eligible voters vote in that primary election.
My gosh. So what that's telling me is those people I know who are registered to vote as an independent, they don't even get to vote in the primary. So for you to have a chance of actually being able to go do this good work you want to do for our nation, some folks are going to have to probably, hey, if they're registered as an independent or even as a Republican, even if it's just for 2 months, change your registry, register as a Democrat, go vote for you. then go back as soon as they vote for you and go switch your registry back to whatever you want. Make it, independent, Republican, communist, socialist, who cares? But for that month, that week, that day, be registered as a Democrat.
Yes, and I do want to say in the general election, which it was a presidential election year, we did see the turnout just below 59% in the general election last year, last cycle. So that
For
was
Kentucky,
for Kentucky. So that
yeah.
was a lot higher than the primary, but that's still really low, especially for a general election.
Well, and you know what sucks is that so many people complain about the candidates they get to vote for. That's because those people that are complaining, they're those 40% that didn't go vote in the primary. The primary is where you get to choose the candidates. That's where you get to make your voice really heard. And we know you're a great candidate, so you need to win the primary. You can't do that if folks are registered as independents and they're only planning on coming out for the general election. That's not democracy. Democracy takes many steps.
Exactly. Now, for anyone who's listening who's not familiar with Kentucky, we're a closed primary state, which means in order for you to vote in the primaries, you have to be registered either as a Democratic candidate or a Democratic Party or Republican Party. And if you're registered for anything else, you can't vote in the primaries. I really wish that we would vote to open that up like some other states do, but currently that's the system we're given, and that's what we have to work within. So
You
I
know what
know
that reminds me of, Dakota?
what.
I got a friend who keeps on saying that it should be this way, it should be this way, it should be this way, right? And this person will not change from being registered as an independent for just this election cycle. And that reminds me of back in the days of when the Catholics and the Protestants used to like to fight amongst each other. And some of the Protestants used to say, hey, these guys that are theologians, they like to sit and talk about how many angels can dance on the head of a needle when they ignore what really matters, you know? And I think that that's what's going on right now. Anybody who right now today is displeased with what's going on in America, and you're like, oh, well, I'm registered as an independent and I won't register for either party. Well, then you're saying that you would sit there and you would rather have an argument about whether how many angels can fit to dance on the head of a needle rather than getting down to the brass tacks. You need to get out and vote for Dakota Compton in the primary. And you cannot do that. And no one's going to change for you unless you make the change happen now. And where there's no way right now we're going to get this state to let independents vote in the primary. So until we can make that change, you need to get out and decide enough's enough. We're going to vote for Dakota in the primary so that we can have him in the general election. It's great that 59% of Kentuckians voted in the election. We should have had 100%, but it's good that 59% did. That's a majority. But that was not even close to being a majority voting in the primary.
Oh
So
yeah,
we got to
exactly.
care all the way up and down.
Exactly. And I'll be honest, when I first registered to vote, no one explained that system to me. And I was just told if you're a Democrat, you're going to vote for Democrats. If you're a Republican, you're going to vote for Republicans. And no one ever explained the system to me. And it didn't
Well,
hit it didn't
my
hit
dad
me
did.
until oh, gone.
No, I was saying my dad did. When I went to vote, he took me to register to vote when I was 17, about a week or two. I was going to be 18. He took me to register to vote, and I thought I was going to register as a Republican because I was listening to all the nonsense they were talking back then about trickle economics and didn't have any clue about what real economy ran on. And Dad's like, "Whoa, son, in Kentucky, if you're not, you can only vote in a primary if you're a Democrat. There is no Republican primary. Of course, things have changed now,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But the days of having people like I told you, like my papa, who even though he was a solid, staunch Democrat, he would go out and take care of making sure Republicans got their dirt roads paved and that they weren't unpaved just because they're Republicans in majority Democrat county. You know,
Yeah,
now of course it's flip flopped, and I bet you the other party wouldn't do the same if they knew there was a dirt road that just Democrats lived on. You
yeah,
know,
exactly.
we need to say if we want to change this system, the only way to do it is now, and not sit and talk about, oh, I wish it should be, or it should be this way, so I'm not going to take part because it's not this way. Well, if you want to make it that way, you've got to take a part in the primary. And you can't take a part in the primary unless you're registered to vote Democrat for Mr. Compton. You know, then go switch it to whatever you want afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Just to give people a little heads up, by county, I know you're at Hardin County. In the primary election in 2024, there was only an 8.7% Democratic voter turnout in Hardin County. And
And can we,
so, and yeah, and I can
man,
tell you there's a little over 36,000 registered Democrats in Hardin County. Only 3,157 voted in your county.
well, I was talking to you
Insane.
before this, right? Before we started about that evil monstrosity that was posted by the Hardin County Republicans just of the day. Did you see? Did you get to look at that?
I did, yes. Yes. And so for those who are wondering what we're talking about, there's a link that just put on your screen that was posted. And I'll let Spencer, since you're in Hardin County, I'll let you talk a little bit about it.
Yeah. So, you know, I love this county. I love the people here. I don't care whether they're Republican or Democrat. But to think that this county would have someone in a party here in the county put up a picture of President Obama and his wife on apes' bodies as if they are apes, right? And then put Trump on the head of a lion as if he's the Lion King ruling over these apes. This is just absolute racist. I don't
Yeah.
care how you want to cut it. And you know what? Hardin County is a beautiful, awesome place. My ancestors were there from the beginning. They're buried in the graves over there in Elizabethtown. Like I said, that's the same grave that the Confederates Morgan shot, used to shoot the cannonballs into Elizabethtown from. Right, but I was just at church today and looking at my church's history. We had quite a few people who owned slaves. And then after the Civil War, they left the church because our minister was ministering to black folks. You know, and for a while we had black folks regularly going to our church, but they quit it once they realized that they were being pushed out by these folks who still wish they had slaves. You know, we gotta go away from that history, and we can't do it if we're putting up evil stuff like this from one party in the county. You know, I don't.
Exactly.
I say I have Republican friends in the county, independent friends, and Democrats. You know, I love them all. They're all that I've met good people. But the person that did this in that party, she's giving that party a black eye.
Exactly. And I do have to say, I am proud of the Kentucky Democratic Party statewide because they have came out and they're investigating this and they have already put out a statement against this. So I do have to
Yeah,
say, I am proud of the state Republican Party for doing this.
me too.
Uh,
Me too. They made them take that down right
yes,
away. Thank goodness.
exactly. And I was fortunate I didn't see it when it first came up, but I've seen the aftermath of it, and it's just vile. It's so
We
vile.
can't.
We
You
we
know, we've
can't,
got
yeah,
too many people on Fort Knox, man, that are of all different races, religions, and we work. You know, they work together over there with love and honor, serving the county, serving the state, serving the nation. How could you put that thumb in their eye in
yeah,
that way? You know, that is atrocious. And right now, you know, the military is not being paid, and all those DOD federal employees on that base watching the gates aren't employed. We ran into someone, you and I met him. I think I introduced you to him, who is a gate guard.
yeah,
He's a cop, a federal cop, manning the gate at Fort Knox. He's not being paid, and yet he's going to work the night shift to guard the gate every single day. And he's a veteran, combat veteran, mind you, of the 1st Marine Division, which I also served with. So this should be something that we like. What would you do if you were an African American or any other race and you saw your local county where you work on Fort Knox putting out something like that? Nasty.
It is. And I've sent out a condemnation of this post, and I know many others have as well. So I'm glad to see, excuse me, I'm glad to see the community in Hardin County rallying against this post and against the individual who's made this post. So
And like you said, the Republican Party of the state
yes,
also said, take
yes,
that down. We're
yes,
investigating it thoroughly.
yes. So they know they knew it wasn't right. They knew how much of a vile post that was, and they still posted it anyway.
Yeah.
That and that goes back to um, that goes back to what we're talking about earlier, voter turnout in primaries. It goes back to showing up to county party events. It goes back to making sure that you elect people in positions of power, whether it's for your local county party, whether it's for your local city commission, local magistrate race, or your federal congressional race, that won't support that kind of rhetoric and that kind of racism in
And you know,
our. Oh,
your responsibility in a democracy doesn't start and end on the general election at the voting booth. That's it's there's so much more to a democracy than just one vote a year or every 4 years. You know, you need to actually, honestly, there are yearly things to vote on. There are county votes. They don't always happen on a general election time. You know, the president isn't the only person to vote for in this nation. You need to pay attention to who your Congress people are. That's why we need Dakota in office, right? It's not, we need to check every single branch. We need to keep a check on the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court needs to check the executive branch. The executive branch needs to check Congress, and Congress needs to check the executive branch. All three of these branches, judicial, executive, and our lawmakers, the Congress and the Senate, they got to check each other, and that's not happening. And it's not happening because we chose for it not to happen by only, say again, 8.7% in Hardin County,
yep,
13.6 in the state voting in a primary.
yep,
Hey, it's so great that 59% did it in the general election, but that's not it. And you also need to get out and go talk to these folks in Congress when they don't do something that they're supposed to do, when they don't have the best interest of working class folks at heart. You need to be emailing them, calling them, going to their local offices around the state. You know, you don't got to drive to DC to go talk to their representatives or talk to them. Go to their offices. They're back in the state a few
yep,
times a year, and when they are, you should be in their ear.
exactly. And I will say, my county, we have over 40,000 registered Democrats, and in the primary in 24, there was only a little over 4,000 of them that voted, 4,800. So
And that's why we
12.1%.
are. That's why
Yes.
we're where we are. Yep.
And on top of that, too, for those who don't know, Kentucky, we almost have like a 3-year cycle, or out of the 4 years here. So there's 1 year where we don't have a lot of elections that go on. We are having a special election for the Senate seat in Louisville that David Yates is vacating because he is now the county clerk in Jefferson County. But other than that, we don't have other elections this year. But next year, we're going to have up and down the ballot elections, and then uh, it just goes for the next 3 years, election after election. And these are including mayoral races. These are including our nonpartisan seats. These are, of course, including state house, state senate, so many seats in the next 3 years that you're going to be voting on. And I'll tell you something else. Elections shouldn't just be to vote for a president or an amendment. Here in Bowling Green, we had an amazing mayoral candidate for Bowling Green, Patty Minter, who lost her race by a little over 1,200 votes. and there was a little over 1,700 ballots that were cast that left that race blank. Had they
My,
voted for Patty Minter, she would have handedly won that mayoral race. And we would have someone in there who shows up and who speaks out for the people in Bowling Green. And we don't have that right now.
no, we don't. We need someone who's going to speak for more than just corporate America. You know,
Mhm.
Dakota, I know that the Supreme Court said that corporations are people too. When was the last time you had a cup of coffee or a cup of beer or maybe a shot of whiskey with the corporation?
Um,
Did you ever invite them out, to a bar to have a drink with you?
I will say the last time that happened was probably negative 31 years ago, before I was born. It's never happened in my life. Uh,
Never happened in my life either.
Never happened.
That's right.
So,
Yep.
and, and the fact that those corporations have so much power in our government just because they can just throw money behind candidates to do their will and vote their way is obscene. We should not have that up there. We should not have that
Absolutely.
in any level of government, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah,
But
and yet we allow it, and that's what that No Kings protest was about. You know, we say it's about no kings. Well, it's also about no oligarchs. And those corporations now have the power of the oligarchs. The king's just a figurehead. You know,
yeah,
and the only way to take that down is by voting in this primary. Once
yeah,
again, I'll say it again. I'll beat this dead horse till it's down the ground. If you are an independent, I love the fact that you want to be independent. That's fine. That's your American God-given right. But because the Kentucky system doesn't recognize you yet, the only way to change that is to vote for someone like William that will allow that help push for that change. Or vote for the state reps that can make that change, right? But you can't do that unless just for this cycle, you vote you change your primary registration, register as a Democrat, vote for Compton, vote for other folks that agree with what we're saying, that independents should be able to vote on their primary of choice. But until that happens, you're just making that inane argument about how many angels can dance on the head of a needle, and you're ignoring reality until you make it a reality.
yes. And you have to make sure you do it before December 31st or whatever. Yeah, 31st is the last day of
Thank
December.
you.
Yeah, you
Thank you.
have to do
And
it
then
before the end of the year.
do it before the end of the year. And then after you vote that day, hey, just go right around the corner, clerk's office, and change your registry.
You don't even
That's
have to
all it
go to the
is.
clerk's office. You just have to pull out your phone and do it
There
right
you
on your
go.
phone. It's that easy. Just
Oh
pull
my
out your
gosh. You mean
phone.
it's
And
that easy, and yet we have
it's
friends
that
that aren't going
easy.
to do it? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And see,
Wow.
here's the thing too. When it comes to registering to vote and changing your voter registration, all you need is your phone. And of course, you'll need to know things like your social security number and things of that nature. But it's that easy. Take advantage of it now before they make it ridiculously hard to do it.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Dakota, I hate to say it, but I've got to go hang out with my family a little bit. Actually, I love my family, so I love to say it. But I think we have made some amazing points. I think you've made some amazing points.
Yes.
I appreciate those numbers. Knowing
Yes.
what the numbers are, if we didn't know that it's 8.7, then we wouldn't know, hey, it's our job to go talk to our friends that we love and say, hey, please do this
Yes.
for Kentucky, for Hardin County, for Warren County, for Jefferson County, for all of Kentucky, and for this nation. Please do it just this one time. If you got to drag them by the ear, go ahead and do it. So we
Yeah.
can take our country back from the oligarchs, take it back from the corporations. You know,
Yeah.
if you
Exactly.
can't have a beer with someone, they're not a person. All right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to leave you. I'll let you
It's
keep talking and
okay.
I'll keep listening. But you have a great one.
All right. So I do want to kind of move on from there real quick. I want to talk about one more event that I actually went to yesterday, and that was Bowling Green Pride. So it was a fantastic event here in Bowling Green Circus Square Park. I do want to take a moment to thank Bowling Green Fairness for putting this on, and Patty Mentor again for helping put this on again. It was so amazing. The weather was so great for this event, and I got to meet so many amazing people here at Bowling Green and at the Pride Festival. And I met so many young adults who before the primary was going to turn 18. So I had some that would said they would turn 18 in April, some in February, some in December of this year. And I made sure to let them know, hey, register to vote. Make sure you register to vote because as long as you're going to be 18 before the primary, register to vote. And a lot of people don't realize that. So if you are going to be 18 before the primary, May 19th, go on ahead and get that registration. Start thinking about registering because you can still vote in the primary and make sure you register as a Democrat. Uh, on top of that, there were quite a few people who went around and I had a whiteboard and they wrote down some of their concerns that they're seeing. And so I just want to read some of these concerns that they wrote, some concerns that we're going to start addressing on this podcast because it was so important that they wrote this down. And some even had tons and tons of check mark stars next to. So one of them that had lots and lots of uh, comments on was women's rights. Then we had people who were concerned about fairness, about censorship, about SNAP, religious freedom, equality for all, keeping LGBTQ plus kids safe in schools, uh, insurance costs. People are were even wrote down they were scared that there are not going to be any more elections. Uh, Healthcare for everybody, including trans healthcare, mental health, uh, going to work and not getting paid. We had federal workers there who that was their worry, going to work and not getting paid. Uh, and then the social welfare programs had a lot of people who were worried about that, and then a lot of people worried about our union worker rights. So I had, and there's a lot more on there, so many more on there that these people are concerned about here in Bowling Green, and probably you listening are concerned about. So that's one thing that I just want to make sure that you know that with me running for the second congressional district, please let me know your concerns so we can start addressing them. We are going to address these in later episodes, and we are going to make sure that we fight to make these better. So, Bowling Green Pride was amazing. If you missed it, you missed a fantastic event, and it was just a great time. I enjoyed it. So, I know my co-host had to go leave and spend time with his family, which I completely understand. But I'm going to end this just a little bit early and give you some closing remarks. So amazing events in this congressional district and all across America. Uh, we made sure to gather to support everybody with Bowling Green Pride. We made sure to gather and voice our constitutional right to protest peacefully. And I keep saying that peacefully because so many people who don't want us to protest always say that we're going to be violent. And that's not what happened with the No Kings protest. So so many went out and voiced their concerns, and it was great. We need to keep doing that. And after these protests, like Spencer said earlier, what we have to do now is make sure that we're registered to vote, make sure our friends and families are registered to vote, and make sure they get out and vote in these primaries to elect candidates who are going to stand up and stand with the community, stand up for and stand with the community. And that's exactly what I'm doing each and every day that I am out, each and every day that I am uh, going to these events, and each and every day when I'm out teaching my students. So, make sure, here's my call to action, make sure to check your registration because if you haven't voted in a while, they have purged some voters here in Kentucky. So double check to make sure you are registered to vote and make sure you're registered to vote in the Democratic primary. And I would greatly appreciate each and every one of your votes in the Democratic primary to ensure that we have someone, at least on the Democratic side of the aisle, who's going to fight for a better Kentucky. So I appreciate each and every one of you for watching this. I know this was a little bit of a shorter episode, but excuse me, this has been a very busy week for everybody. And let's keep fighting, let's keep organizing, and let's keep working to make things better and fixing everything that's going wrong in our country. So, thank you all so much for watching. Next week's episode, we are going to be addressing some of these things these concerns that I got from Bowling Green Pride. So, thank you all so much. I appreciate you all so much, and you all have a wonderful rest of your day.